Hello, how are we today? I hope we are well. I don't know why I'm clapping, but I am. Before we even get into this video, a couple of disclaimers. The hands. They are Oompa Loompa AF. I went too heavy on the fake tan on the hands. What happened was, I actually fake tanned a couple of days ago, and this is what it looks like, yeah? A really nice, light tan, yeah? But my hands, the tan on my hands came off, so I put like a little bit on last night so it would match better, and they ended up looking like this, bitch. Fuck. This ring here, it's my Gemini ring. I've had a couple of people actually ask about this. It's from Amazon. What the fuck? If I have the link, I'll link it down below. Yes, Gemini. I'm a Gemini. Many people think I'm a Scorpio for some reason. Every time someone new who's into astrology jumps on my channel, they leave me a comment and they say, hey, are you a Scorpio by any chance? No, I actually have no Scorpio in my birth chart at all. I'm a Gemini, baby. I'm an Aquarius rising. Makes sense. Gemini sun. Hello, baby. I'm born in June too, so watch out. We're related to the devil. And I have a Pisces moon, which explains why I'm an emotional hot fucking mess. You know, so today's video is something a little bit different. I've never really filmed a video like this before. I've never really felt like, I don't know, encouraged and felt the need to film like a one book review type of video. But if you guys follow me on social media, my Facebook page, not my readers group, but my Facebook page and my Instagram, you would have seen me talking over the past 2 weeks about this specific book that we're talking about today. It's something that has really stuck with me, and I just feel like I want to talk about it. You know, I want to discuss this book with anyone who has read it. This video specifically is more geared towards those who have read it. There's going to be a lot of fucking spoilers. I'm going to be talking about the book. So if you haven't read it yet, I probably wouldn't even watch this. I will write on the screen when the spoilers happen. So just be aware of that. So the book I'm talking about is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I need to talk about the backstory of how this book got into my hands. So last year, I found this at Kmart in Australia, and I bought it. My sister-in-law had also bought it as well, and I don't know, I was on the hunt for like good books or whatever, and I found it. I really liked the cover. We all know what I'm like with my book covers, so I bought it. And it's been on my shelf for literally a year. Also last year, I had a message from one of you. One of my subscribers from Russia messaged me, and she was like, hey, like, I love your videos. I watch them all the time. I recently read this book and I think you'll love it, but be aware that it's not a romance and it's really dark. And she sent me like the name for My Dark Vanessa. A couple of people had suggested this to me over the past year, and it was just sitting on my bookshelf. It was just sitting there. I just didn't pick it up and read it straight away. And then last week, I looked at it on my bookshelf, stopped what I was reading and picked it up and just read it. And I read it in one sitting. Now, I've said this so many times. I say this in like literally every video. I haven't been reading like a full book in one sitting in months. Like, I mean months, babe. Like, it's been months. My concentration is so bad at the moment, like really, really bad. Unless it's like wicked writing and a story I haven't read before, there's no way I am reading it in one sitting. I paused a couple of times reading this book and went and spoke to my partner about it, which is something that I often do. Like, if I find a book and I'm like captivated by it, I'll tell him all about it. And I was telling him about this book, and he was like, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, what do you fucking mean? And he was like, I can't even go there. He's like, it's disgusting. I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, no. If we're going to have a daughter one day, you need to know this shit. You need to stop pulling the blinders down, bitch. Wake the fuck up. Get out of that male fucking privilege you have and realize what the fuck us women have to deal with every single fucking day. Because this story is the story of many of us. This is way too fucking common, and I know so many of you who have confided in me online and trust me with your secrets have told me that like, this book is literally like your life. You've gone through this. So many women go through this fucking shit. Anyway, so I was like, no, you will listen to me. You will listen to what I have to say and we'll talk about it. I finished the book and it just left an imprint on me, and I can't even explain really why. Well, I can why, but it just left this feeling, and ever since I have finished this book, it's just been on my mind constantly. Like, I think about it before I go to bed, I think about it when I wake up in the morning, I will be at work, doing things at work, and it will just pop into my head. I'm not into reading this genre. I you know, stick to just romance. So to have this and to read this, it's really thrown me. But in saying that, hands down, this is one of my favorite books I have ever read in my entire life. The writing in this book was phenomenal, a true fucking page turner. Reading this is like literally watching a car crash unfold in front of your eyes and you can't look away. Like, that is literally what it's like to read this book. I should have known, because Stephen King has a fucking comment on it. I've had a lot of people ask questions like, oh, you know, does it have a happy ending? Is it a romance? What is this book? So I'm just gonna tell you now what it is. This is not a romance. Do not go into this book thinking it's a romance. It is not a fucking romance. It's not in the romantic genre. It's a psychological fiction. That is the genre for this book. It is not a romance. There's nothing about this relationship that is romantic. This is the type of relationship that will literally twist your insides. This is the type of relationship that you have to pause and stop reading because you feel physically ill. This is the type of relationship that makes you fucking think. It makes you dig into your brain and pull out all those fucking suppressed memories that you don't want to remember. Pull them out and look at them and realize tenfold how fucked up certain situations are and how much of a victim you truly are. Massive trigger warnings for this. This is a huge trigger warning. When I read dark romance, I read the most fucked up shit, yeah? I have no hard limits when it comes to dark romance, unless it's human trafficking. That's one thing that I can't get down with. I hate that that gets used sometimes as like a romantic plot. You've been sold to some cunt. That's not romantic. Anyway, that's the only thing. But like, I read mafia, I've read incest, I read age gaps, I read student teacher. Like, I've read the most, you know, bizarre fucking books and like, you know, controversial books in the romantic genre. But the difference is between that and this is the genre. Like, that's written from a romantic gaze, like a romantic point of view, where this is literally truth, baby. And this just shows the power of like how writers can like manipulate you to think that certain things are okay. Dark romance is here for us to indulge in our fantasies and our desires safely without judgment. Yeah, it's a place where we can discover our sexuality, be confident within who we are, and not fear what may turn us on. And it's a safe place where we don't get hurt and no one else gets hurt. Dark romance is not a problem. Obviously, everyone has hard limits. Everyone has things that they cannot agree with. And just because you're someone that reads all dark romance and stuff doesn't mean you condone that in real life. You can totally read dark romance and read this stuff and separate the two. You totally can. I can do it. Some people may not be able to, and that's fine. If dark romance isn't your thing, then it isn't your thing. But I am a shame-free fucking zone. Do not shame no bitch for reading dark romance. There's a lot of psychology behind why women indulge in dark romance, why they read dark romance, why certain kinks develop. And I'm not here to judge anyone for that. If it's not harming you and you're not harming anyone else, then it's peachy keen here, baby. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure that if you want to read this, like, you know what it's about. Like, you don't go in here thinking that, oh, fuck, there's this heroine, this young heroine falls in love with her teacher, and her teacher falls in love with her, they get married, they have fucking kids happily ever after. No. This is literally a story about grooming. So this the other day on Instagram, I get really annoyed when I come across TikToks of these girls who say, you know, if a 16-year-old is dating like a 19, 20-year-old, she's getting groomed. And I'm not saying that young people can't groom younger people, but like this character's 15 and her teacher's 45. And the way the story is written, it's step by step. You fucking see what he does to groom her and to start manipulating and twisting her fucking brain. So without further ado, I'm going to start talking about this book. I'm just going to talk about like certain scenes that really affected me. I'm going to talk about just my thoughts on the heroine and also the teacher. My Dark Vanessa is about a girl called Vanessa. The story starts off in her 30s. She's 32 and she's coming across these articles and posts on Facebook where her high school teacher is being accused of sexual assault, and she's kind of shocked by this because she herself had a relationship with this teacher when she was 15 years old. So when this relationship began, she was 15 and her teacher was 45. And his name is Jacob Strain. So that's like the gateway. When you first start reading the book, that's where you start. But in her mind, her internal monologue is playing and she's reading these like articles and she's reading this status from a former student who has come out and accused him of sexual assault. And she's just like, what the fuck? Because in her mind, the relationship that she had with Strain was romantic. It was her first love. And she truly believes at 32 years old that they were madly in love. The story is written in dual timelines. So you go from where she is now at 32 years old back to when she was 15 and where it all started. And that's how the book kind of plays out. Because the book kind of started off with her like questioning things and being like, what? And you already know that she had a relationship with Strain. When you go to the next chapter and the chapters that follow, where it takes place back when she was 15, you can literally dissect what she says, dissect what he does, and you can pinpoint every little thing he does to groom her. And while I was reading this, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, he's groomed. Oh my God, how can she not see this? But it's just like a classic reminder, like for a girl that's 15 years old, like, and I think back to when I was 15, man, like, oh fuck. Your brain just isn't developed enough to pick up on this shit. It really isn't. It just isn't. Vanessa also had a lot of insecurity. Her insecurities were obvious. Anyone could pick up that she was not confident within herself, and I believe that is why Strain picked her out of her entire class, because, you know, an undeveloped brain that already has insecurities is the easiest to manipulate, and that is just what he did. He sought her out because she was the perfect candidate to be a fucking toy for him. There were so many scenes that happened before they even slept together, before their relationship even like evolved into what it was, where I was like, absolutely fucking not. What are you doing, Strain? What are you fucking doing? Like the littlest things, from like she was working on the computer and something happened and he needed to help her. So he comes up behind her and he leans over her and her hand is on the computer mouse and he covers her hand with his over the computer mouse and squeezes her hand. There was a couple of times where like she was fidgeting and he was sitting next to her and he kind of like rubbed her knee, touched her knee, calmed her down a bit. All these little things just started like getting in her head, and then he decided to give her a copy of Lolita. We all know what Lolita is. Like, it's a famous fucking book, man. I haven't read the book, but I've seen the movie. He gave her a copy of Lolita and was like, you should read this over the summer type of thing. And she did. And she read it like 4 fucking times and had convinced herself that, oh my God, this is me and Strain. This is me and Strain. It's me and him. It's me and him. That's what he wanted. He wanted to create an obsession within her to do with him, so then he could actively make his move on her without her like shutting it down or like whistleblowing. Now, Strain is not an attractive man. He's a 45-year-old man that's going great. He has sweat patches under his arms. He ain't hot, man. He ain't hot. And the author made sure to write that. And whenever like something went down sexually between Vanessa and Strain, like Vanessa would always like make a comment about his age or like what he looked like or what he was wearing. Like one time she referred to what he was wearing as dad clothes, and It made you literally stop yourself from falling into like, oh my God, this is romantic. It made you like stop and be like, oh yeah, that's right, he's a fucking old man. He's an old man trying to fuck his student. What the actual fuck, okay? What the actual fuck? He was a full-blown predator. I can't even, he gave me the fucking creeps. I'm 26 and he gave me the fucking creeps, babe. Like me, like a grown-ass woman. Like if he was doing that shit to me, he wouldn't because I'm too old for him. But like, if some cunt was doing this shit to me now, I'd be like, get the fuck away from me, you creepy ass motherfucker. There was a Halloween dress-up party at the boarding school, and she dressed up as a cat, and he ended up like walking out of like the party and going outside to smoke a cigarette, and she follows him because she thinks like, oh, he's leaving, and they're standing there and he's like, oh, you caught me smoking, and he's like giving her like a speech on how she should never smoke, and she's like, yeah, but like obviously it feels good because you're doing it, and he like laughed or whatever. Anyway, he's staring at her like with a cigarette in his hand, like eyes going up and down. She's dressed as a cat. It's Halloween and she's 15. He calls her like a pussy cat. I instantly read that line and was like, ew. Ew, 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 ew. And then he continued to say in that same conversation, he was like, oh, I just want to take you home, put you to bed and give you a big kiss. And in the book, with her internal monologue, it's kind of like a battle. She's like, oh, I don't really feel good, but like, he's so good to me and he makes me feel good. And already in her mind at that age, there's so much conflict. She knows this isn't right, but she likes how it feels because he's told her how it should feel. And he also like will do things and then, you know, shower her in compliments and stuff, which uplifts her because she's already a very insecure girl. Like he tells her how special she is, how, you know, how beautiful she is, like her hair looks like maple trees and like how perfect she is. And it's just like, oh, it's so hard to read because it's like, oh, get out, babe, get out. It got really hard to read once they started having sex. Like when they had sex, after they kissed the first time, she was like, I feel weird. And a normal human would have taken that as like she feels uncomfortable or she's not like, you know, sure that she wants to be doing what they're doing. But Strange just said, I hope it's a good weird. Like, what, cunt? When they have sex, it's literally just like the most wild thing I've ever fucking read. It's pretty intense. Like, this author did not beat around the bush, and it was quite confronting to read this scene because of what, like, how it played out. But, you know, she goes to his house and he has let her know, like, you know, we don't even have to sleep in the same bed. We can literally sit on the couch all night and hold hands if you want. Like, he kind of, I don't know, cloaks himself in like this caring nature with her, but it's honestly just like the mask that he wears to convince her to get close to him, like so she can feel comfortable around him and for her to feel like this is okay, what they're doing is okay. And she goes there and she explains to him how she's not tired, but he directs her upstairs into the bedroom anyway. He's like, I bought you some pajamas. I bought you pajamas if you forgot to bring your own. Vanessa's like, okay, I'll put them on even though I've got like pajamas in my bag. Like, who forgets their pajamas? And she puts them on and they're like childlike pajamas that are like white with like strawberries on them. Okay? And she feels kind of like, oh, how sweet. Like he went and like browsed the girls section and bought me pajamas. What a caring thing to do. Because she's already made up this like opinion on him and she already has feelings for him, which I wouldn't even call feelings. I think he just like made her feel like good for a moment, and now she just like assumes everything he does is to make her feel good, but in reality it's to make him feel good and to literally squash her and devour her fucking soul. She wears these pajamas and she walks out and he is like, oh no. And then he says like, can I see? And he like pulls her over and like because she's like covering her breasts, and like pulls her arms away so he can like look at her. Oh my god, dude, it's so fucked up. They end up like hopping into bed and having like a conversation, and then they start kissing, and she kind of insinuates the kissing because she's there for a reason. Like, she knows why she's brought herself there. She enjoys kissing him, she thinks. So she initiates like kissing, and then he ends up going down on her, and she, you know, climaxes. And he like tells her like how special she is because she did that, how not all women can do that, and how he wants to do that to her all the time. He just wants to make her feel good all the time. And in her head, she's just like, well, yeah, that kind of felt pretty good. I wouldn't mind feeling that quite often. He puts so much shit in her head. It's just bizarre. And as you read it and you go through it, you're like, oh my fucking god, like, how can you not see this? But again, you remember like what you were like when you were 15, and you look at like her, who she was, who Vanessa was, and like how she had no friends, and like she was an isolated kid, and you know, she had anxiety, and she was insecure, and she was like, you know, a bit of a broken girl. And that's what a predator's dream is. Like, let's be real. They seek the girls that, you know, lack confidence, that don't have many friends, that may not have a supportive family. Because they're the ones that are easy to manipulate. They're the ones that, you know, are easy to control. They're the ones that, you know, if they go missing, no one's going to ask questions. You know what I mean? He like reminds her that they don't have to have sex, that she is in control. She's in control. When in reality, she's not in control. Because they end up falling asleep, and then a few hours later, she wakes up and he's butt naked next to her, like kissing up on her neck. And she kind of freaks out. And like she rolls over, and his like dick is out and everything, and he's like hard, and it's just like, she's like kind of mortified, and she's like, oh, okay, oh wow. Like, she's never even seen a naked man before, like she's never even seen a penis in real life, and now she's got this like 45-year-old dick just in her face. And he starts like talking to her, like dirty talking to her, and she feels really uncomfortable, but she feels obligated to please him because he pleases her. So when he starts like fondling with her and like taking her pants off, and he's like asking her like, is this okay? Can I do this? But it's already happened. Like, when he asks her, can I take your pants off? They're already off. And then before she knows it, he's in between her legs, entering, and she's crying because it hurts. And he's just telling her like, it's not always going to hurt. This is what it's like for the first time. You're doing great. Just breathe. Let me in. She ends up disassociating during having sex, and she ends up doing that quite often when they get intimate in the future and throughout her life. Rumors start, you know, coming out about them, and to shut the rumors down, she ends up leaving the school, and they keep in contact for years and years and years, and then I believe that she's around 21 when they stop seeing each other. Well, they stop actively having sex. And I believe that she says in the book it's because he can't get hard for her anymore. And then she kind of, as an adult, reminisces on the time when she was young and youthful and looked the way that she did when she was 15. And then she looks at herself in the mirror and she's like, oh my god, I hate myself. Like, look at the wrinkles. I've aged. I'm 32 now. No wonder Strain doesn't want me. But she just can't really connect the dots. Like, she still kind of believes in her head that it was love. Like, she still believes that he was special and they were madly in love, and she was, you know, mature for her age, and she was all these things because that's what he told her. Now that I've talked about the book a little bit, I asked you guys on Instagram if you had any questions regarding the book that you want me to answer or go in depth about. So I'm going to go through them now. The most disturbing thing about that book. The reality of it, to be honest. Seeing how easy it is to actually manipulate a young mind. And as I said earlier on in the video, it made me think back to certain situations, certain relationships I've had, especially when I was, you know, around that age. And you guys know that I've said on my channel that I dated, you know, adults when I was 15. And I have said on my channel as well, like, I don't believe everything is black and white. I think there's a huge gray area, and I still believe that. But there's certain things that I read in this book that I was like, hang on a second, like, I was in a similar position at some stages. There were certain things that Strain did to Vanessa or said to Vanessa, and I was like, oh my god, I've had that said to me before. And it's just now at like 26 that I've noticed. And this book has opened my eyes to so much. Like, I already knew that this was a massive problem, and I already knew that, you know, this happens. I wasn't delusional, but it's disturbing to know that this is like the reality of most of our lives, and most of us women. We grow into adults after these situations have occurred, and we have the same opinions and thoughts and feelings as Vanessa did. And Vanessa, when you read it from an outsider's perspective, you're like, oh my God, hun, like, you need to go to therapy. And even when in the book she was seeing a therapist, and she was kind of like arcing up at the therapist and like trying to tell the therapist, no, that's not how it was. He was good to me. No matter how toxic the relationship is, no matter the circumstance, if it's a circumstance like this, or like you're in an abusive, physical abusive relationship, or like you're in a relationship where they psychologically abuse you, we always just hold on to this idea that it's true love. It's disturbing to know that we do that. What scene made you feel sick to your gut, like you couldn't digest what the fuck was going on? When they had sex, which I already talked about. When they had sex, also, oh, that scene where he sneaks into her house when she's home for summer and her parents are at work, and he like tells her to role play. So she's like lying in her bed, and he's like, oh, pretend that someone's home and I'm not meant to be here and you have to be quiet. And he like role plays and full sneaks into her room and hops in her bed and starts sleeping with her, like having sex with her. And he like covers her mouth and like is whispering, you know, you have to be quiet, no one can catch us. Like, that grossed me out. And the fact that he took photos, like after he like blew his load and was done with her, he got up and got like his Polaroid camera out and started taking photos of her. That fucking disgusted me. Also, the scene when they're on the phone to each other, oh, and he makes her say, I love you, daddy. Stop. Now, I don't kink shame, yeah. And this is not, pedophilia is not a kink for starters, but I know a lot of girls that, you know, they say daddy when they like have sex or whatever. I've read daddy kink books, you know what I mean? But that's one thing I can't get down with. I could never call a guy I'm sleeping with daddy. I'm sorry, I just couldn't. Not in the moment. Like, I joke about it, and like in my videos when I'm talking about certain romances, I like drop daddy. But I personally could never say it. It really just makes me feel grossed out. Obviously, it's different if you're sleeping with someone who's closer to your age and it's not pedophilia and like you're role playing or whatever, or you're participating in like that type of kink. It's different. But like when you read this scene and you hear how he makes her say it and how she disassociates as soon as she says it, and she doesn't like it. Like, she doesn't like it. She just said it to please him because that's what she thinks she needs to do, because like he pleases her all the time. Like, how selfish of her to not please him also. Yeah, I just couldn't get down with that scene. I couldn't get down with any of these scenes. Still a brilliant book. Still my favorite book because it made me think and it made me feel, and that's why I love reading. Will it be fine for me to read it, as I love teacher-student romances? I don't want to hate my fave genre. If you love the trope student-teacher in romance, do not read this book. I don't think I could ever read a student-teacher romance again after reading this, unless it was super well written. Has there ever been a point in your life, like the realization of Vanessa? Have you been through something like this? I never had a relationship with a teacher. But I did have a situation happen when I was 15 with someone who was older than me, and it wasn't on this scale, absolutely not. And I'm fine with the relationship that happened back then, now as an adult, but there are questionable things, you know. Now that I read this book and I look back at that relationship, I'm like, I don't even know if he knew what he was doing, you know. I don't even know if that was his intention, but yeah, I could say that I've been through something similar. Do you think of age gap books you've loved differently after reading My Dark Vanessa? No, not necessarily. I still totally love age gap relationships. Like, I'm reading an age gap relationship romance right now. That's just my thing. I don't know. I love I've always dated older guys, not like older men, but I've always dated older guys, and I've never dated someone my own age, like seriously. I don't know, I feel comfortable dating older guys. People that are older than me. And look, I don't know, this could be connected to trauma, I don't know, but I feel safe and protected, and that's why I like age gaps, because like when you're younger, you feel like, you know, fragile, and like dating someone who's older and maybe a bit more dominant, it feels safe, like you're protected and like nothing can happen to you. And that's why I like age gap stories, like romances. But no, I haven't changed my opinion on any of them. I still love them all the same, like my favorite ones. Just because I've read this book, it doesn't mean I won't read these tropes or I don't like it. Like, they're two different genres and I can split the two, you know what I mean? Most uncomfortable scene in the book, mine was when he manipulated her to take all the blame. Yeah, that was really hard. Everything fucking fell apart. He got in her head. He got in her head and he made her believe that like she made the first move, that she had to take the fall for everything, and that like it was on her. And still at the end of the book, when she's like sitting down with the therapist, she's like, it was my fault too. He isn't all evil. I participated in this too. Like, I wanted it. I seeked it. But it's like, babe, you seeked it because he put it in your face. Like, he made a move on you and you thought, oh, he's making a move on me so I can make a move back. If he never made a move in the first place, you wouldn't have seeked it. He purposely put it in your head that it was okay to want something with him because he wanted something with you. I feel like the teacher did love her in his own way. Like, he wouldn't have called her before dying if not. There was moments in the book where I felt sorry for him. So don't take this as in I had sympathy for him, because he deserved more than what he got, personally. And I think he's a predator and he's sick. But that's why I feel sorry for him, because he's a sick, sick man. And the life he lived was sick. He was on his own, he was lonely, and he was a sick man that just never, ever, ever got help. And that made me sad. And I don't think he loved Vanessa. Well, look, I think he did care for Vanessa in his own sick way, because he kept contact with her, and even as she got older and their relationship kind of stopped, I remember one scene where he said to her, like, you're better than this, like, I expected more from you, because she was working like a normal job and wasn't in college, and like she wasn't chasing after her dreams like he thought she would. In that scene, he was kind of like, fuck. He never actively took on the responsibility of ruining her. He always gaslighted her. He always pointed the finger at her. I don't think it was love. I think he was just obsessed with her. She was his like little obsession, you know? His little fantasy come to life. Did you get frustrated in the present chapters because she didn't accept that she was abused? Absolutely. I got really frustrated, especially when she had encounters with other victims, and especially the scene where she went and caught up with one of the victims who had came forth, and they talked about their experiences with Strain, and I think her name was Taylor. I can't remember now, but she had said like, he used to bring you up. Vanessa ignored like a lot of what she said and was like, just tell me what he did. And when Taylor said like, oh, it started off with the brushing of my knee, which was similar to Vanessa and him, Vanessa was like, oh, like, okay. Taylor said that he was a pedophile. Like, Vanessa shut her down and told her that he wasn't. Like, she was still defending him, and I found it really frustrating, because it was like, look at your life. Look at all the potential that you had. Vanessa wasn't a dumb girl. She was extremely intelligent, but she was just kind of misunderstood, and Strain took advantage of that. There was certain scenes in the book where like behavior would, you know, play out between people around Vanessa, or like when she was reading up about these articles to do with Strain, she would like feel sorry for the girls, but then not feel sorry for herself. I was getting really mad at her, but then I had to like remind myself like how much Strain like messed her up. Like, he rearranged her brain. And these are the type of girls that never come forth, you know, when they've been abused or something's happened to them, like sexual assault or whatnot. Because, like, there's something in their brain that tells them it's like their fault or it could have been worse. I think it's really important for women to know, like, abuse comes in all different shapes and forms. It's not always sexual, it's not always physical. They don't have to be fully like beating on you and like putting you down for it to be abuse. You know, abuse could be deep rooted and psychological. Just think abuse is a tree. There's so many different branches of what abuse actually is, and it affects everyone differently depending on what the abuse is and how our brains work and how our brains deal with that type of trauma. But yeah, Vanessa just had it in her head the whole entire time, okay, because he wasn't like raping me, he wasn't that bad. But it's like, if you read the first sex scene, it's like, well, it is rape. It's rape point blank because she's underage. But it's rape too because she didn't want it. He didn't get her consent. And she was crying and he kept going. Why do you feel like it triggered you so much? It triggered me because it was written honestly. And, you know, when I've read student-teacher romances or just dark romance in general, because it's written a certain way to appeal as romantic, it doesn't like hit me as much. But because Kate wrote this with such raw honesty, she didn't mask this story as a fantasy. She cloaked it in reality. And I feel like for any woman to read something like this, you either like relate to it because of past experiences, or you know people that have had experiences like that and have been affected by it, or you have, you know, young girls in your life, so you think of them. And it's disturbing. I am someone that, I don't know, ask the people that know me. Like, I'm very passionate about like sexual assault, believe it or not. And I found that through reading dark romance and suggesting it, and then having people online slander me because of the books I read without even knowing me, like not having any context of like who I am as a person. I feel deeply for these types of stories and women in general in real life that have gone through this, and it's just so common. Also because this book is set around the time that the Me Too movement started. And since the Me Too movement started, like, I've never been naive, and I've never like, you know, had my blinders down and ignored what actually goes on. But I think after like 2017, I decided to really like, you know, dig into that and I learn a lot about it. And shit's pretty fucked for us girls, I must say. It's pretty insane, and there's so many things that came up in this book that we see every single day. This book was just powerful. That is it for today's video. I'm gonna leave it here. I don't even know what this video was. A review? A Q&A? Let's talk about My Dark Vanessa. I've just come up with an idea, and I don't know if you guys would be interested in this. Let me know in the comments below. But I want to start like a book club, like a true book club. I pick a book, we read it together, and then I communicate with you guys, we start a discussion, and then I film a video about it. I know I have my open readers group, but I kind of want to do like a smaller one. And it's literally just a book club where we read books like this or like a romance together. Then we talk about it, and then I film a video based on our book club. And every month I could do a video about what we're reading, and then at the end of the month or whatever, discuss it. Yeah, I think I just came up with an idea. I think I'm going to work that out. I'll sit down later today and figure out how I'm going to do it and what I'm going to do with it. But yes, let me know in the comments below if you want that. Anyway, I've got to go because my camera is dying. I hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Let me know down below what you think of My Dark Vanessa. Goodbye. I'll see you in the next video.